I grew up in Orange County. I grew up in Newport Beach. And when I was a kid, I'd heard this local urban legend of these guys that lived in the canyon that were moving massive amounts of LSD. I thought this has to be my next documentary. My name is William Kirk Lee. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I made a film called Orange Sunshine. Orange Sunshine was on a group called the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, and they were the largest distributors of LSD and hash in the world, but also really it's a love story, which I kind of love. When I started talking to Mike and Carol, who are the head of the Brotherhood, they were very private people. They had never told their story before. They were very protective of it. They were worried that anybody coming in would want to tell the Hollywood version of their story, and not really touch on the true motivations. I'd meet up with them, I'd have dinner, I'd get to know them, kind of built up a relationship. And then finally, after 4 years, I went to them with a rough cut of a film of these 20 plus people that I had interviewed. It was a totally different film. I said, look, this is the story of the Brotherhood, and it's a shame that you guys aren't telling it. This is your story. If you would be willing to say yes to me and doing an interview, I would be willing to take everything I've done, put it on a shelf, and start over with you. And they said yes, and then it took another 3 years. The coolest thing that I loved about this story, that motivated me with this story, was here was a group, I'd never heard of drug smugglers that didn't care about financial gain, that didn't care about money. They didn't have yachts, they didn't have the mansions, they didn't have the Rolls-Royce cars and the guns or any of that. They were just purely interested in turning on the world. And that's how they lived. They would still hitchhike down to the beach to go surfing. They didn't drive fancy cars. They put all the money they made back into manufacturing LSD with the goal of giving it away for free. They're really proud of what they've done, and they wouldn't change a thing. And they're still on that same path. They're still out there spreading the word. They've written books. They go and do talks. And what's important, I think, about the Brotherhood and about exhibits like this is that it keeps the conversation alive, right? And we look at our past and we learn from our past, and hopefully we have a better future, a more informed future. They feel like they made a very positive impact on the world, and I agree. I think the impact that the Brotherhood has had, I think bringing marijuana out into the mainstream, they've been a big proponent of that. There's that saying that the most dangerous thing about marijuana is getting caught with it, right? I think that the Brotherhood helped that conversation, that national conversation of really putting it out there and saying that it's not right to be imprisoned over something like marijuana, that it has a lot of medicinal value. It's definitely not as harmful as alcohol and other things that are legal. In the late 60s, early 70s, these guys were 17, 18, 19 years old, and they were going to Afghanistan, at a time when you can't just look up what other countries are like, maybe get a book or something, but they're just going completely into the unknown. They're going to Germany, they're buying a car, and then they're driving this car over to Afghanistan, to Kabul, Afghanistan, and getting a bunch of hash and then smuggling that back. God, I don't know where my life was at 17, 18, 19 years old. I couldn't imagine operating on that level. I think that's pretty impressive. So there's a film called Rainbow Bridge that the Brotherhood was a part of, that Mike Henson was in, and it's the last film that Jimi Hendrix is in. And there's a scene where there's a lot of surfing in the film, but Mike Henson has a rainbow surfboard, and in the scene he cuts open the board and we see that there's a bunch of hash in the surfboard. And I always loved that scene. And we wanted to recreate that for Orange Sunshine, the film. We did a lot of dramatizations where we shot on Super 8 film and made it look like old home movies. So this was in our film, Orange Sunshine. And just the fact that Mike Henson shaped the board and Star Shields painted it, it's a pretty cool, it's a pretty cool relic from the past. And I also love that we got all the Brotherhood members to sign the surfboard. So for an item that represents such a unique time and place that was so influential in surfing and counterculture, this item kind of wraps it all up, which I love. And now I'm really excited that I get to share it with the public at the Museum of Weed exhibition.